At first glance, it looks like a crude, almost chaotic image. But the longer you look, the more horrifying it becomes. A monstrous old man grips a mangled body, sinking his teeth into the flesh of his own child. This is Francisco Goya's Saturn, devouring his son, and for nearly 2 centuries it has haunted anyone who dared to confront it. It is a work born from madness and isolation. In this video, we're going to uncover the story behind one of the most terrifying works of art ever created. To understand this painting, we need to begin with the myth. In Roman mythology, Saturn was the leader of the Titans. He had been warned by a prophecy that one of his children would overthrow him, just as he himself had overthrown his father. And so, every time his wife Rhea gave birth, Saturn devoured the child. But one son escaped, Zeus, who eventually defeated him, fulfilling the prophecy. This myth has been represented in art for centuries. Painters like Rubens depicted Saturn eating his children, but those versions were refined, almost theatrical. Rubens's Saturn looks like a man with a sense of regret, elegantly posed, still anchored in the Baroque tradition. Goya's version, however, is something else entirely. Saturn here is not a god in classical robes, he is a monster. To understand why Goya painted such a horrifying image, we need to look at his life. By the early 1800s, Francisco Goya was already one of Spain's most celebrated artists. He had been court painter to kings, he painted grand portraits, and his career seemed secure. But his personal life and the political world around him collapsed. Goya suffered from a mysterious illness that left him permanently deaf. He became isolated, cut off from the world. At the same time, Spain was ravaged by Napoleon's invasion and the brutality of war. The executions, the massacres, the betrayals, all of it scarred him deeply. By 1819, old, sick, and bitter, Goya moved into a house on the outskirts of Madrid. Locals called it the Quinta del Sordo, or the House of the Deaf Man. And it was there, directly on the walls of his home, that he painted a series of murals now known as the Black Paintings. These works were never meant for public display. They were personal, Goya's private exorcism of his nightmares. And among them, Saturn devouring his son remains the most terrifying. Let's look at the painting itself. The background is almost entirely black. No stage, no mythological setting, just an abyss. Emerging from the darkness is Saturn, crouched, naked, wild-haired, and bug-eyed. His mouth is open, teeth tearing into the flesh of his child. What he holds is not a newborn, as the myth suggests, but a dismembered adult body. The head and one arm are already gone. Blood drips from the torso. Saturn's hands clutch the corpse with a desperation that is almost animalistic. Unlike Rubens's version, where Saturn looks like a king reluctantly following destiny, Goya's Saturn is pure madness. His body is thin. His eyes are wide with terror, not triumph. It looks less like a god in control and more like a creature enslaved by his own fear. The meaning of the painting has been debated for centuries. Is it just mythology, or is it something more? One interpretation is personal. Some historians believe Saturn represents Goya himself, old, sick, devouring what remains of his own life. His fears, his regrets, his mortality, all turned into this monstrous image. Another interpretation is political. Goya lived through Spain's descent into chaos, the brutality of Napoleon's troops, the Inquisition, and the corruption of the monarchy. To some, Saturn represents Spain itself, a nation devouring its own children, trapped in endless cycles of violence and oppression. There is also a universal interpretation. Saturn is time. Time consumes everything: youth, love, hope, and eventually life itself. Goya's other dark paintings are also some of the most terrifying works ever created. Take Witch's Sabbath, for example. In this chilling scene, a massive black goat, a symbol of the devil, looms over a gathering of witches. Goya's witches are ugly, deformed, and grotesque, with hollow eyes and twisted mouths. The goat itself is horrifying, not majestic or godlike, but swollen, monstrous, with an expression that feels mocking and cruel. He presides over the women like a dark priest. One woman offers up what appears to be a child, a detail so disturbing it pushes the painting from folklore into nightmare. Then there is the dog. It might be the simplest of the black paintings, but in many ways it is the most haunting. A small, helpless dog's head emerges at the bottom of the canvas, staring upward into an endless void of brown and ochre. There is no sky, no ground, no escape. Just emptiness, swallowing everything. The dog looks desperate, perhaps pleading, but no one is there to answer. Some art historians call it one of the earliest expressions of existentialism in art. Man staring into the void, realizing how powerless and small he really is. And that's what makes it terrifying. In Fight with Cudgels, Goya shows two men locked in a brutal struggle, beating each other with heavy sticks. But there's a cruel twist. Their legs are buried in the ground, trapping them. They can't move, they can't escape, they can only keep fighting. It's a hopeless battle with no end. Many see this as a metaphor for Spain itself, torn apart by civil wars, violence, and endless cycles of conflict. The painting offers no resolution, only the certainty that both men will destroy each other. Another unsettling work is Two Old Men Eating Soup. At first it sounds harmless, two figures sharing a meal. But when you look closer, one of them is barely human, almost a walking corpse. His eyes are dark sockets, his skin stretched tight over bone. The other figure looks sickly and exhausted, raising a spoon to his mouth with a trembling hand. But what made the Saturn painting the most terrifying is the way Goya painted it. The brushstrokes are rough, almost violent. This is not a polished court painting. It feels unfinished, raw, immediate, as if Goya painted it in a fit of desperation. The colors are limited to black, white, and blood red. There is no balance, no beauty, only horror. Most frightening of all are Saturn's eyes, wide, unblinking, almost glowing in the dark. He doesn't look at the body, he looks outward, as if he's been caught in the act. Viewers feel as though they've walked in on something they were never meant to see. Remember, Goya never intended anyone to see this. He painted it directly onto his dining room wall, along with 13 other black paintings. After his death, the murals were transferred onto canvas and moved to the Prado Museum in Madrid. When they were first revealed to the public in the late 19th century, they caused shock. More than 200 years later, people still stand frozen in front of this painting. Why? Because the fear it shows is timeless.